Hello everyone. Welcome back to H&P Podcast, a podcast that helps you breathe easier in life. It's great to see you all again in a new episode.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine.
I personally feel that I am very suited to this topic. Not because I read about it somewhere and then summarize the knowledge for you, but because I was never naturally a top student or an exceptionally talented person. However, I later realized that it wasn't because I was bad at learning, nor is anyone inherently bad at learning. It was simply that I hadn't yet found the right method to improve, and I also couldn't identify the factors that were hindering my progress. To be honest, I'm not saying that after listening to this podcast or watching this video, you will suddenly become more intelligent or successful. Because first, I'm not a particularly gifted person myself. And second, everyone has a different definition of what it means to be successful or talented. If you compare yourself to those ahead of you, you may feel like you're not good enough. But if you look back, you'll see that no one is quite like you either. Shakespeare once said, "Jealousy is the green-eyed monster." Now, my analogy might not be entirely accurate because Shakespeare was referring to jealousy in love, but my point is, don't let envy, resentment, or arrogance become obstacles to your progress. The only comparison that truly matters is with yourself, your past self. If you can look back and see that you've improved, then that's all that counts. That is the ultimate standard. No need to adjust or measure against others. No looking left, right, or straight ahead. Just focus on your own path. That's a little introduction to today's podcast. As always, for me, the biggest obstacles to any action or endeavor are attitude and mindset. I don't know what your family environment was like, but I think many families were similar to mine. When I was a kid, I often heard, "You're studying for yourself, not for anyone else." But when I asked, "What does it mean to study for myself?" I never got a satisfying answer. Now, I finally understand. You study to become more compassionate, more reasonable, more sincere, and to make life easier for yourself. The cost of not learning, of not improving, is enormous. Sometimes, it's as simple as losing money for no good reason. Other times, it's something even more serious, losing your sense of judgment. I believe that, in this world, there are countless perspectives and viewpoints that I may never fully grasp or even be aware of. Take, for example, a building. An architect, a construction worker, an economist, and an engineer will all see it differently. I think every perspective has its validity, but my perspective is neither the only one nor necessarily the correct one. You can share your own viewpoint, but you also need to listen to and respect the perspectives of others. But honestly, that takes a lot of time. You can't just comment, share your opinion, and then wait around for someone else to respond. I feel like that's such a waste of time. I believe that learning is a lifelong journey. Personal growth and education are serious matters, and I consider it a blessing to be able to keep learning throughout my life. Every year, as I grow older, as I gain another year, and as I learn something new and interesting, it feels incredible and exciting. If I go through a day without learning something new, I feel disappointed. There are times when I realize something new and think, wow, so I've actually been ignorant all this time. I didn't understand anything at all. To me, learning isn't just about earning degrees. It's about recognizing that no matter how many degrees I have, there is always something valuable to learn from anyone and anything. The most important factor is my attitude and mindset toward learning and self-improvement. If that changes, life will become much easier, and so will I as a person. Alright, Step 1 is done. Attitude and mindset. One of the biggest obstacles to my progress has always been my own attitude and mindset. The second obstacle to learning and improvement is the desire to do everything quickly. The key to learning and progress is to learn slowly and deeply. I regret that when I was younger, no one ever told me this. No one ever explained it to me. Instead, all I ever heard was, "Wow, you finished your work so fast, you're such a quick learner." Everyone assumed that being fast was good, that speed was everything. But now I know it's not too late to change. There's a famous quote, I don't remember if it's from Bill Gates, that says he prefers to hire lazy people because they will find the fastest way to complete a task. I'm not sure how that works from an employer's perspective, but from a learner's perspective, that mindset is absolutely terrible. Learning just for the sake of speed is not smart at all. I discovered this when I first moved to Germany. I was surprisingly better at math than my German classmates, even though I had always been terrible at it, especially calculus and integrals. I could solve problems very quickly because I had formulas. I just plugged in the numbers and it was done. But then I started wondering, if I'm just as human as they are, why are they so much better at math than me? Eventually, I realized that the way I approached math was completely different from how my German classmates did. I could solve calculus and integrals quickly, but when it came to applying them in real-world scenarios, I was completely lost. My German classmates, on the other hand, learned much more slowly, but far more thoroughly. They didn't just memorize formulas for speed. They learned to understand the essence, what calculus truly is, what integrals truly are, and how they can be applied in real life. That's why they seemed slower than me at first, but in the long run, they became much better. Luckily for me, I studied economics, so I only had to go as far as matrices. But for those studying engineering, it was different. Math 1 was easy, but when they reached Math 2 and Math 3, things became incredibly tough because they hadn't grasped the fundamentals. Vietnamese students, including myself, were used to learning quickly, while German students were used to learning slowly. Their parents would never say, "Here, let me show you a faster way to do it." I realized that learning slowly involves 3 key skills: the ability to see the bigger picture, the ability to relate and connect previously learned concepts, and critical thinking. And all of these take time. Here's a simple example for elementary students. Which is greater, a fifth or a eighth? Many parents will quickly tell their child, if the numerators are the same, the fraction with the smaller denominator is larger. But that's not slow learning. Slow learning would involve explaining, if you have 2 identical cakes and you cut one into 5 pieces and the other into 8 pieces, the slices in the first cake will be larger than those in the second. Teaching this way takes more time, but in the long run, your child will develop a more comprehensive perspective and an ability to connect different concepts. Learning this way may not immediately boost their current grades, but it will be highly effective in the long run. According to Robert Sternberg, the factors that contribute to high grades in university do not include critical thinking. Critical thinking is still unfamiliar and distant for most students. To summarize the second point, learning slowly means learning deeply. If learning feels too easy, you are not actually progressing. Third point, fear of asking questions. Asking questions is crucial, but having the courage to ask them is a different story. I often find myself wondering if my questions might sound stupid, but now I know there is no such thing as a stupid question. Just ask if you genuinely want to know. The answers will help clear up a lot of confusion in your mind. Your attitude matters more than anything else. No one will look down on you for being curious, for digging deeper, and for wanting to learn. And if someone does judge you based on your questions, like I've said before, I don't care. As long as I get the answers I need, that's all that matters. Fourth point, FOMO, Fear of missing out. I often get lazy, lying around watching TikTok. I'm afraid that if I don't scroll, I'll miss out on something. But what do you really want? Do you want to understand digital marketing to complete your thesis? Or do you urgently need to know how to cook fried chicken? Do you actually need that fried chicken recipe right now? No, you don't need it. Fifth point, facing the reality that I'm surrounded by people who don't help me grow. I mentioned in a previous podcast that my goal for 2024 is to improve my networking skills. I feel like I'm doing well with it, and I've realized that everyone has something I can learn from. The key is knowing how to ask the right questions to get the knowledge I want. For example, if I meet someone outside my field, I start with general questions, asking if their job is tough, what they usually do, what challenges they face. The other day, I was talking to a nail technician in Germany. First, I asked if her job was difficult. Then I asked what it takes to open a nail salon in Germany. The conversation naturally unfolded. I asked about her clientele, how much capital is needed, and so on. All these questions were running through my mind. But to get answers, I had to phrase my questions properly, especially since she wasn't in my industry. I found this approach to networking both enjoyable and informative. But sometimes, certain people make me stop networking altogether by spreading negativity or gossiping about others. That's why I need deep, meaningful conversations with people who align with my goals and values, people who bring real value to my learning. Of course, I also have a few relationships that aren't knowledge-driven, just silly and carefree. But there are only one or two of those, and they're childhood friendships that I can't measure in terms of value. They're simply a part of me. I can't judge them. But when it comes to others, choosing the right people to spend time with is extremely important. Do I really want to drown in endless, negative small talk? I'm not judging anyone. I just know it's not for me. These are some of the key factors that hinder learning and progress. I hope they're helpful to you. That brings us to the end of today's episode. If you found this content useful, please consider sharing it with your friends and family. Also, as always, YouTube's algorithm favors videos with more likes. So if you enjoyed this one, please hit the like button to help more people discover our podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and I wish you all a peaceful evening.